The lights burned hot against his small face. 5 years old, and already Michael Jackson knew the weight of perfection. While other children played with toys and scraped their knees in innocent games, he rehearsed dance steps until his feet bled. His father's voice echoed through cramped rehearsal spaces, demanding excellence, accepting nothing less than flawless performance. There were no bedtime stories, no lazy Saturday mornings, no moments of simply being young. Instead, there was music, always music, and the relentless pursuit of stardom that consumed his childhood like fire devouring paper. The other Jackson brothers felt the pressure too, but Michael carried something different in his soul. He possessed a gift so rare that it seemed almost supernatural, a voice that could make grown adults weep and a presence that commanded attention the moment he stepped onto any stage. But gifts come with prices, and his was steep. He watched through hotel windows as ordinary kids rode bicycles and laughed without purpose. He memorized their freedom, their carelessness, their simple joy. Those images would haunt him forever, ghost memories of a life he never lived. The applause was deafening, the crowds massive, the success unprecedented. Yet behind his eyes lived a loneliness so profound it seemed to hollow him out from within. He became a master of masks, learning to smile when cameras appeared, to perform joy even when his heart felt empty. The world saw a prodigy, a miracle child who could sing like an angel and move like magic. They didn't see the boy who cried himself to sleep, who looked in mirrors and saw only the reflection of everyone's expectations. That boy, the real Michael, remained hidden, buried beneath layers of performance and pretense, waiting for a moment of peace that would never come. The crown sat heavy on his head. Michael Jackson became the king of pop, but kings in pop music don't rule kingdoms, they survive prisons made of fame. Thriller changed everything. The album sold numbers that defied belief, broke every record, made him the most famous human being on planet Earth. People screamed his name in languages he didn't understand. They fainted at the sight of him, wept at the sound of his voice, treated him like something more than human. And that was precisely the problem. He wasn't more than human. He was painfully, desperately human, craving connection in a world that refused to see him as anything except an icon. His home became a fortress called Neverland, built from childhood dreams he never got to live. He filled it with rides and animals, with innocence and wonder, creating the sanctuary his young self had been denied. Critics mocked it, called it strange, twisted it into something sinister. They couldn't understand that for Michael, it was survival. It was the only place where he could breathe without the world watching, judging, demanding more. The media became vultures circling overhead, waiting for any sign of weakness. They dissected his appearance, invented cruel nicknames, turned his struggles into entertainment. Every change in his face became headline news. Every personal choice was scrutinized under microscopes of suspicion and mockery. They forgot he was human. They forgot humans break under constant pressure. His music remained transcendent. He poured everything into his art, his pain, his hope, his desperate need to be understood. Each song was a message in a bottle thrown into an ocean of noise, hoping someone would find it and truly listen. Some did. Millions danced to his rhythms and sang his lyrics, but dancing and singing aren't the same as understanding. The spotlight that made him visible somehow made him more invisible than ever, seen by everyone yet known by almost no one. That the accusations came like daggers in the dark. One moment Michael Jackson stood on top of the world, and the next, he was drowning in allegations that threatened to destroy not just his career but his very soul. The first claims emerged in 1993, accusations so terrible they seemed designed to annihilate him completely. His response was not defiance but devastation. He couldn't comprehend how anyone could believe such things about him. His love for children was born from his stolen childhood, from his desire to protect innocence he never got to experience. He saw himself in their eyes, saw the wonder he'd lost. But the world twisted that love into something monstrous, something unforgivable. The media feeding frenzy was unlike anything seen before. Headlines screamed accusations as fact. Television shows dissected his life with surgical cruelty. Comedians made him the punchline of jokes so vicious they would have destroyed lesser souls. His face, once the most recognizable and beloved in the world, became a symbol of scandal and suspicion. Friends vanished like smoke. Business partners distanced themselves. The isolation that had always haunted him became absolute and suffocating. He settled the first case not from guilt but from exhaustion, from the desperate need to make the nightmare end. But settlements don't buy peace, they buy only more suspicion. The public saw the payment and decided it proved everything. They didn't see the man behind closed doors, weeping uncontrollably, unable to eat or sleep, his trust in humanity shattered beyond repair. His addiction to pain medication grew from this agony. Physical pain from injuries and surgeries merged with emotional anguish into a darkness he couldn't escape without chemical help. The pills offered brief respite from a reality too brutal to face sober. He became dependent not from weakness but from unbearable suffering, from wounds that never healed because the world kept tearing them open again. 2005 arrived with new accusations, and this time there would be no settlement, no escape route. Michael Jackson would stand trial, face his accusers in court, endure months of testimony that painted him as a monster. The proceedings were broadcast globally, turning justice into spectacle, transforming his suffering into entertainment for millions. Every day he walked into that courthouse knowing the world was watching, judging, already deciding his guilt before evidence was presented. The prosecution built their case with innuendo and character assassination. They paraded witnesses who described Neverland as a trap rather than a haven, who twisted innocent gestures into evidence of crimes. The defense countered with facts, with inconsistencies in the accuser's stories, with testimony from people who had known Michael for decades and never witnessed anything inappropriate. But facts seemed almost irrelevant in the court of public opinion. The trial lasted months, each day stealing another piece of his spirit. He lost weight dramatically, appearing in court looking skeletal and haunted. His health deteriorated visibly. The stress was literally killing him, and everyone could see it happening in real time. Yet the cameras kept rolling, the commentators kept speculating, the jokes kept coming. When the verdict finally arrived, not guilty on all counts, it should have been vindication. The jury had examined the evidence and found him innocent. But the damage was irreversible and permanent. His reputation was destroyed. His career was in ruins. His ability to trust anyone, even himself, was shattered beyond repair. He left the courthouse a free man legally but remained imprisoned by the court of public opinion. The world had decided who Michael Jackson was, and no verdict could change their minds. He retreated further into himself, becoming a ghost haunting his own life, going through motions without purpose or hope. June 25, 2009. The news spread like wildfire across the internet. Michael Jackson was dead at 50 years old. Cardiac arrest, they said. Drug overdose, they whispered. But the truth was simpler and sadder. A pure soul, trapped too long in a cruel spotlight, had finally found the only exit available. The world that had mocked him, accused him, torn him apart piece by piece suddenly remembered how to love him. Millions mourned. Tributes poured in from every corner of the globe. His music sales exploded. Suddenly everyone claimed they'd always believed in him, always known he was innocent, always loved him. The hypocrisy was staggering and heartbreaking. Where was this love when he needed it? Where were these defenders when he stood alone against accusations? Where was this compassion when he was being destroyed in public view? His memorial service became one of the most watched events in television history. Celebrities spoke of his genius, his kindness, his generous spirit. They told stories of a man who gave millions to charity, who wrote songs about healing the world, who genuinely cared about making life better for others. This was the real Michael Jackson, the one buried beneath decades of tabloid lies and manufactured scandals. His children spoke through tears, revealing a father who was loving and present despite everything. His daughter Paris called him the best father imaginable, her voice breaking as she tried to comprehend a world without him. In death, Michael Jackson finally received the peace denied to him in life. No more cameras invading his privacy, no more accusations tearing at his soul, no more cruel jokes at his expense. But the peace came far too late, purchased at the ultimate price. His story remains a mirror held up to society, reflecting our cruelty, our tendency to destroy what we claim to love, our inability to let talented souls simply be human. Michael Jackson wasn't a monster or a god, he was a man with an extraordinary gift and an ordinary need to be understood and accepted, a pure soul that deserved better than the cruel spotlight that consumed him.